No matter our gender, we all carry both masculine and feminine energies, reflecting the universe's divine creation. Like the Taoist symbol of Taiji, the yin and yang, these energies are meant to flow together, intertwine, and even transform into one another. Yet for many of us, this inner balance is lost. Our yin and yang are out of sync, which blocks our authentic emotional expression. Today, let's focus on one expression of that imbalance: the wounded masculine energy. Specifically, its tendency to resist emotional vulnerability, a reluctance, or even fear of feeling dependent, helpless, or weak. But beneath that resistance lies the quiet longing, a yearning for genuine emotional expression, a desire for real connection. When we reject our emotional vulnerability, whether consciously or unconsciously, we build a strong outer shell for emotional self-defense. We may appear composed, collected, and in control, but inside, we cut ourselves off from the full spectrum of feelings that only honest, open relationships can offer. To understand how to heal, we must first understand the wound. Let's begin with the question: why does wounded masculine energy reject emotional vulnerability? Chapter 1: The wound behind the resistance to emotional vulnerability. First and foremost, it's not that the wounded masculine doesn't feel the need for emotional connection. It's that it doesn't feel safe enough or familiar enough to let go of self-reliance. People who carry a built-in resistance to emotional needs and connection often haven't had the chance to grow up in an environment grounded in emotional stability and safety. The heartbreaking reality is that when there was no one to trust or lean on in our early years, we learned that we had to trust only ourselves. In the absence of physical or emotional protection from primary caregivers, a child is very likely to develop a resistance or rejection toward emotional closeness. Showing emotional vulnerability to others can trigger the same painful wounds, such as being abandoned, rejected, or even abused by those in whom we once placed our trust. This is where emotional resistance takes root, not as a choice, but as a protective response. Secondly, instead of being taught to live with integrated wholeness, a wholeness where masculine and feminine energies do not oppose each other but grow through one another, society programs us with a mindset of duality: weak or strong, pitiful or powerful. We look up to socially successful images that are goal-driven, powerful, and resourceful, capable of defending, protecting, and standing in their own greatness. We admire their visible accomplishments, power, and influence, all of which fall under competitive masculine traits. Thus, many of us develop the perception that if we want to demonstrate our strength, influence, and capability, we must, by all means, avoid their opposites, including our emotional vulnerabilities. Under this social conditioning, we begin to feel hesitate, inadequate, fearful, or shameful when the masculine energy within us reaches beyond logic to let our emotional vulnerabilities dissolve our desirable self-image. But is it really true that if we need someone, we surrender our happiness or our misery into their hands? Does it mean that we are incapable of leaving our mark on the world without another person's guidance, support, or love? Chapter 2: Emotional vulnerability is a true strength. Contrary to our social conditioning, what if we start a new inner dialogue, one that sees emotional vulnerability not as a weakness, but as a true sign of emotional maturity? First, only when we learn to trust again can we become capable of being vulnerable. Our emotional need for close connection, the kind that arises from honesty, can only emerge from a place of trust. It means we allow someone else's light to shine into us when we temporarily lose sight of our own. It means we no longer doubt that someone will accept our flaws and shadows, that they won't walk away when we open our hearts and let them see our imperfect, ever-evolving selves. Thinking of the great courage it takes to trust again, would you still believe that emotional vulnerability is a sign of weakness? Secondly, from a metaphysical perspective, the human body is also an energetic field, vibrating at its own frequency. When we shut ourselves down for protection, emotionally or energetically, we may succeed in avoiding pain, but we also block the flow of love, light, and life. The ability to need, to lean, to love, these are not signs of dependency or weakness. They are signs of openness and of strength that allows us to remain authentic and committed to our own growth. When we begin to honor our emotional needs and inner desires without shame, we open ourselves to a new kind of strength that is rooted in wholeness, not separation. We begin to create relationships built on presence, trust, and mutual growth, not on fear or survival. But to reach that place, we must first begin the healing journey inward, so that our desire for connection arises not from emotional wreckage, but from emotional maturity. Chapter 3: A Path of Healing, Balancing Yin and Yang Within. So, how do we begin to heal? How do we soften the armor we've worn for so long? How do we learn to trust a world that once turned its back on us, especially in the moments we needed love, support, and connection the most? Once we understand that acknowledging our emotional vulnerability is a healthy, even sacred, step inward on the journey of healing, we need to take one step further, letting the emotional walls fall. According to Taoism, true growth and wellness come from the balance of yin and yang, the union of masculine and feminine energies. Neither masculine nor feminine energy can stand alone. They exist in a harmonious dance, rooted in each other, intertwining with and transforming into each other, moving with the natural rhythm of the Tao, the law of the universe. When we separate masculine energy from the richness of the feminine, the part of us that governs emotional vulnerability, the wounded masculine creates isolation instead of emotional connection, performance rather than presence. We remain stuck behind walls that keep us unhealed and unfulfilled, disconnected from joy, intimacy, and belonging. To truly heal the wounded masculine within us, we must return to the place where we hide our deepest pains. We need to show up for ourselves with gentleness, patience, compassion, and devotion, traits of the feminine energy. When we let the wall of our emotional protection fall, piece by piece, moment by moment, we don't become weaker. We become more fully alive. Because healing the masculine isn't about discarding strength. It's about redefining it. A strength that allows softness, a power that makes space for self-compassion, a wholeness that no longer fears being seen. And from that place, we are finally ready to tear down the wall that has kept our true emotional needs and desires imprisoned. Conclusion. Remember, resistance to emotional vulnerability is not the absence of feeling, it's the fear of feeling. Feeling emotionally vulnerable can be very uncomfortable at first, but it doesn't make us weaker, nor does it diminish our power. On the contrary, it proves our authenticity and creates balance, a harmony between the masculine and feminine energies within us. It is true strength to stand tall in emotional honesty, yet remain humble enough to let ourselves be seen. This kind of vulnerability deepens self-awareness, nurtures self-care, strengthens self-love, and reveals a heart that is open, alive, and unafraid to feel. It brings us closer to our inner truth, the wholeness within. When part of us stops hiding and resisting its own existence, we open to the boundless freedom of being ourselves, embracing the calling of our soul, and walking the path of our true becoming.
Thank you for tuning in Voice of the Soul. If today's message has inspired you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay anchored in your most powerful energy. Sending you love and light.